Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, John Haynes, A Conversation with Death. A man who rules the world and the angel of darkness take on a horde of demons in this inaugural John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, A Conversation with Death for 99 cents on Kindle or in paperback today. According to Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy, there isn't much comic books or books to adapt into a new Star Wars film. And when I take a critical examination of Kathleen Kennedy's out and out lie, it looks like she's trying to gaslight the audience into believing something everybody knows that just isn't true. Now, ever since Star Wars came out in 1977, there has been a whole bunch of material that any filmmaker could adapt into a film. And that started with Marvel Comics' Star Wars comic series, which I believe possibly started in about 1978 or 1979. Because I remember when I was attending CES 132, one of my classmates had a Star Wars comic collection, and there were plenty of stories that could have been adapted from the over 100 issues of the Star Wars comic book series. And your Kathleen Kennedy is telling us that there are no comic books with material that she could adapt to film, but the Star Wars comic series from Marvel Comics had plenty of great stories that could have possibly been adapted to film. And in addition to all of those comic books, we had a series of novels called The Expanded Universe, which expanded the world of Star Wars, and that series probably started in the 1980s as well, I believe. And these were novels that were over 200, 300 pages in some cases, and they covered different aspects of the intergalactic war in the galaxy. So if Kathleen Kennedy couldn't really get anything going with Luke or Han or Leia, she could easily go to another aspect of the universe of Star Wars and use one of these expanded universe novels to create a new trilogy about the expanded universe, which dealt with life after the war, I believe, in some cases, or before the war, or in another part of the galaxy in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. There were plenty of stories in the expanded universe that Kathleen Kennedy could have easily adapted into a film, and I believe she could have generated just a huge amount of anticipation for one heroine many expanded universe fans wanted to see, someone who would have been way more popular than Rey, and that person was Mara Jade Skywalker. Now, Mara Jade Skywalker was Luke Skywalker's wife, and if they had cast that role in a Star Wars movie, I guarantee you that Star Wars fandom would have gotten super excited because everybody loves Mara Jade, and in the expanded universe novels, she's an extremely popular character. And had Kathleen Kennedy gone out here and adapted one of those novels with Mara Jade, you would have had a huge positive response, and the film probably would have been a super blockbuster. But instead, your Kathleen Kennedy did not like Mara Jade or the expanded universe, so she said she was going to ignore the expanded universe and the heroine, Mara Jade Skywalker. Instead, she decided to create her own character, Rey, who she thought would be a stronger heroine, even though Mara Jade was shown to be very strong in many of the expanded universe novels. Now, in addition to the Marvel Comics of the 1970s and 1980s, the expanded universe novels, we also had several video games come out in the 1990s. And one of them that came out for Nintendo 64 that was extremely popular was with Dash Rendar. I believe it was called Shadows of the Empire. And this was a game everybody played back in the day. So people knew Shadows of the Empire, and they probably would have wanted to see a Shadows of the Empire movie. So there was material right there off of the new millions of Nintendo 64 fans out there who played Shadows of the Empire, not to mention LucasArts games like Dark Forces, which were available for PlayStation and PC. So there were numerous games that your Kathleen Kennedy could have used as a foundation for an adaptation of source material. But according to Kathleen Kennedy, in the face of all of this older material, there was no material to adapt into a film. And I find that to be, again, a out-and-out lie designed to gaslight all of the Star Wars fans out there, because anybody who has grown up with Star Wars like I have ever since I was about 4 years old, I know that there's so much material out here for Star Wars that is just not funny. And even a good creative person like myself could have come up with a great idea for a Star Wars story that could have easily been adapted using those characters, or an original story using those characters, because we had the end of the war at Return of the Jedi, and you could have easily made a whole trilogy about the reformation of the Republic. That would have been a great idea for a story talking about the new Republic and how everybody's going to come together to form this new Republic, and how there are factions that are loyal to the Empire looking to undermine the new Republic. And you could have talked about how Luke would work on his destiny towards bringing balance to the Force. There's just so many great stories out here for Star Wars. Unfortunately, because your Kathleen Kennedy was not a visionary and was just so caught up in her feelings about what she wanted to make, she did not think about creating a story that stayed true to the spirit of George Lucas's original material, nor did she want to try to create stories that kept these characters true to themselves. Instead, what she wanted to do was destroy all of the great characters of Star Wars, and then wanted us to take her new forced diversity identity politics characters like your Rey, who was basically a Mary Sue, your bumbling, stumbling Finn, who was nothing more than a butler, your overly cocky beta male Poe Dameron, or your Rose Tico, who was just there for absolutely no reason. Everybody in the new Star Wars was not someone people liked, because nobody could connect to them on a human level. They couldn't relate to them. And what made it worse was, as we were getting these new characters which had no depth, no personality, no heart, or no soul, we saw all of our fan favorite characters like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker killed off in very ignominious fashions, and we were left with a bunch of films that really betrayed everything that Star Wars was all about. But your Kathleen Kennedy, she wants to make us believe that there was no comic book or sci-fi or fantasy material that could be adapted to film, and that, again, is her trying to gaslight the audience into believing something that is an out-and-out lie. Because there's plenty of material out there that could have been adapted, whether it had been comics from the 1970s and 1980s Star Wars comic series, the expanded universe novels, the video games from LucasArts like Shadows of the Empire or Dark Forces, or even the more recent Dark Horse comic book series, or the new Marvel comic series being produced right now, books like Darth Vader and books like Princess Leia being produced right now. There's just so much material out there that they could easily find something to adapt. Moreover, if they had to, they could have easily gone to all of this fan fiction out here and probably picked a story or two and paid a writer for their ideas. There was just so much material out there, but your Kathleen Kennedy wants us to believe the lie that there was no material, when there was plenty of material, but she just didn't have the imagination, vision, or creativity to go look through that material, and she didn't really care to look through that material. It was all about her pushing her feminist agenda and making her Mary Sue character Ray the face of the franchise, and it's that obsession with that character that has led to one of America's most beloved film franchises falling into a public and disgrace, and it's led to the complete collapse of Star Wars as something in America, because this was an iconic brand for America. This was a part of American pop culture, and Kathleen Kennedy destroyed that. And instead of her taking responsibility for destroying a part of America's pop culture and destroying one of America's greatest legends, she decides to say it's due to a lack of material, but in actuality, it's her lack of regard for that material that has led to Star Wars falling into the place that it's currently in right now. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my action-packed SJS Direct Fantasy, like the John Haynes series, the ISIS series, and the E-Steam series, and the Temptation of John Haynes, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. There you can find all of my action-packed African-American fantasy on paperback and Kindle formats, and all of those stories are easy to read, accessible, and fun. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam: The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam: The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today.